Hello and welcome to the Business Standard Morning Show. I'm Swapnil Joglekar and here's a look at the stories for the day. Amid the ongoing auctioning of the fifth generation airways, the government on Wednesday announced Rs 1.64 trillion package for its telecom services provider BSNL. This package, which contains both cash and non-cash support, comes at a time when the struggling PSU seems to be trying hard to turn the corner. Our next report offers a breakdown of this package and tries to explore if it will offer a new lease of life to the company.
A decade after India first got 4G, and when private telecom players are at the cusp of 5G deployment, government-owned BSNL is yet to be allotted 4G airwaves. This has resulted in declining revenues and stagnating wireless market share for the company in the last few years. The government now wants to transform the beleaguered telco into a financially viable, sustainable and vibrant player. BSNL has suffered losses of 50,631 crore rupees in just the last 5 years, albeit narrowing its losses in FY21. In fact, the last time BSNL reported a profit was in 2008-9. The earlier package of 2019 had provided 24,000 crore rupees for 4G service, but that could not be allocated as BSNL was not ready with the technology. And on Wednesday, the government came out with its second revival package for BSNL worth 1.64 trillion rupees with an aim to make the company profitable again by 2026-27. Telecom is among the sectors deemed strategic, where the government intends to maintain a minimum presence with healthy PSUs. The government says BSNL acts as a market balancer in the sector and plays a crucial role in the expansion of telecom services in rural areas, development of indigenous technology, and disaster relief. Despite the commercial non-viability, BSNL provides wireline services in rural and remote areas to meet the government's social objectives. Spread over 4 years, the latest relief package comes with a cash component of almost 44,000 crore rupees and a non-cash component of 1.2 trillion rupees. This includes administrative allocation of spectrum for 4G services at the cost of 44,993 crore rupees through equity infusion, capex funding of 22,471 crore rupees for the deployment of indigenously developed 4G stack, and 13,789 crore rupees of viability gap funding for rural wireline operations. A slew of steps is also being taken to de-stress the balance sheet of BSNL as well as MTNL, which provides services in Mumbai and Delhi. Both the PSUs will get a sovereign guarantee to raise long-term loans through bonds for an amount of 40,399 crore rupees, while BSNL statutory AGR dues of 33,404 crore rupees will be converted into equity. BSNL will be able to restructure its existing bank debt of 33,000 crore rupees.
I don't believe it is too little, too late. More tangible things have been done in recent times, but I am not persuaded those are even remotely sufficient. It is true that BSNL does connect many people who seem not to have access to services of private players. It would be overstating it to say that BSNL is a loser all over the place. It's not. It has strengths. It has a huge network. In fact, a point that is often not recognized is that it has massive rights of way, which its competitors don't have. So there are places where it can extend its network far more easily. That it hasn't done so is a separate issue. It is true that BSNL has been starved of funds, but BSNL has been starved of management autonomy. It has been starved of timely decisions by the government. It has been starved of having of freedom in the choice of its technology, in the choice of its vendors, and so on and so forth.
Another measure is the merger of BBNL with BSNL to facilitate a wider utilization of the infrastructure laid under the BharatNet project, which aims to connect 6.5 lakh villages with broadband by 2025, but is way behind its target. By March 2022, only 27% of the villages received connectivity. However, the infrastructure created under BharatNet will continue to be a national asset, accessible on a non-discriminatory basis to all the telecom service providers for the purposes of providing internet services through Wi-Fi hotspots, fiber to the home connections, leased lines, dark fiber, and backhaul to mobile towers, among others. The 2019 package, worth some 70,000 crore rupees, also envisaged a merger of BSNL and MTNL, which has since been put off. About 40% of that revival package for the two state-run telcos was towards a VRS package for employees over 50 years of age. BSNL's employee strength was brought down to less than 90,000 from over 1.65 lakh, and as a result, its wage bill was cut down by half.
MTNL and BSNL do a lot of coordination between themselves, whether it is in their tariffs and whether it's in many of their other decisions. So they do work in some ways in concert, and therefore it makes eminent sense both from a management perspective as well as commercially to have them to merge them. I do not believe that BBNL has worked efficiently enough in a sufficiently savvy manner that it could actually bring any serious plus for BSNL.
Further, to provide a shot in the arm for BSNL when it launches 4G services, the cabinet has chosen the telco to execute a 26,316 crore rupee project for saturation of 4G mobile services in 24,680 uncovered villages in remote and difficult areas. This will be funded through the Universal Service Obligation Fund. Telecom Minister Ashwini Vaishnaw said BSNL has become a stable company, making operational profits. But as experts say, along with monetary support, BSNL requires autonomy, support for its decision making, and separation from government bureaucracy. While government seems more focused on supporting BSNL, the telco has a long way to go before it can make a meaningful turnaround.
सब अच्छी दिख रही हैं यार, कौन सी खरीदूं?
ये तो वही बात हुई, 4,000 शेयर्स लिस्टेड है, कौन सा लूं?
वो तो सबसे आसान है।
तुझे 5 पैसा नहीं पता?
अब तो सबको पता है। 5 पैसा पर है 4,000 स्टॉक्स की रिसर्च, टेक्निकल टूल्स और इन्वेस्टमेंट आइडियाज। डाउनलोड 5 पैसा नाउ।
अब तो सबको पता है, investing made easy and rewarding with 5 paisa. Investments in securities market are subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing.
There is no magic wand to turn the fortunes of BSNL around, but a right push from the government may yield promising results. Sports is a good example. It has come a long way from what it was a decade or so ago. Hard work of sports persons, backed by efforts of the government and the private sector, is increasingly reflecting in our country's medal tally. Our next report tells more.
The list of star athletes vying to become flag bearer for India seems to be getting longer by each passing event. This time too, the Indian Olympic Association had several names after the first choice, Neeraj Chopra, retired hurt. Finally, while shuffling from the list of 3, IOA zeroed in on PV Sindhu, who marched with the Indian tricolour in Birmingham last night, where Commonwealth Games will be held. India, with a contingent of 215 athletes across 16 disciplines, will look to better its performance from the last edition of CWG. Over the past decade or so, India has been continuously improving its medal tally. In a nation where cricket has overshadowed all other games and is considered a religion, snatching attention for any other stream of sports was very difficult. But not impossible. A wind of change which started to blow at the turn of the 21st century swept across most sports disciplines. Most categories like boxing, wrestling, archery, hockey, etc. have given us international stars. India bettered its best ever performances consistently in the last 3 out of 4 Olympic events, with the highest ever medal tally of 7 at Tokyo Games. If we take the Commonwealth Games as a host nation in 2010, India broke its previous records with 101 medals, standing only behind sporting giant Australia in rankings. The showing was not a blip and was sustained with 66 medals, the second best performance in Gold Coast 2018 CWG Games. At Asian Games, India has always been a powerhouse and continues to remain so. And why did it happen? Due to a little push from the government. India's improved sporting success can partly be attributed to the Sports Authority of India's schemes. Under it, promising athletes are being provided with specialized training, state-of-the-art infrastructure and playing facilities, and individualized diet prescribed by trained nutritionists. Currently, 6,586 boys and 2,639 girls are training in 189 various centers of the country. The government's Target Olympic Podium Scheme, or TOPS, along with the Mission Olympic Cell, was also useful in a big way, where selected athletes get specialized training aligned with individual goals and financial assistance. TOPS athletes PV Sindhu and Sakshi Malik won medals at the 2016 Rio Olympics.
Some of the key federations have also definitely become much more professional compared to, say, a decade back or before. So this access to the right facilities has improved a lot over the last decade. And this holds the same. I'm just giving you an example of hockey, but this would hold the same for all sports. So the quality of people, the quality of decision makers, the quality of the bureaucrats is top class. And for me, they are bringing about a lot of very positive change, not just in professionalism, but in also mindsets towards sport. Olympic sport, all other sports have to get much more sustained funding to really make it maybe not on par with cricket, but get sports up to a much higher level of stature as well as eyeballs.
Both the government and private sector made a conscious effort to bring in world-class coaches, sports doctors, and trainers from foreign countries. Over the years, this has made a big difference in performances. Neeraj Chopra, PV Sindhu, Lavlina Borgohain, and Mirabai Chanu, all of who won medals at Olympics, were helped by multiple expert foreign coaches and support staff. Some experts say that the Indian contingent's excellent show at 2010 Commonwealth Games was the turning point for Indian sport, after which players started getting recognized and private sector funding and investments started pouring in. This was immediately reflected in India's performance in the London Olympics, with 2 silver and 4 bronze medals. Big corporates and brands like Reliance JSW Group came forward with unique programs to support Indian athletes. At the 2014 Commonwealth Games in Glasgow, the JSW Group supported athletes brought home 12 medals. The group is also credited for India's success at Tokyo Olympics, where Neeraj Chopra bagged gold in track and field segment.
The amount of money that's going into sport has risen exponentially. The private players who came in, I mean, if you think about it, in 2010 there were only 2 players. If you look at today, there are about 6 different private companies that are working towards sport within India. The actual factor, which I think that is an important one, is something that it cannot be measured with the money. it's a belief that the athletes now believe that they can actually succeed at the world stage. Obviously, money is one very essential component of it, but it's not the only component that you have. I mean, if I give anybody $1 million and say go become Olympic champion, that's not how really it works. So the planning and the growth of an athlete is a very long, drawn out process that requires meticulous planning and meticulous strategy as to what is the best thing forward and what is the best way forward for each athlete, and that has to be tailor made to each athlete that is there, and that's where the corporate sector really comes in.
In the recent past, there has also been greater international competitive exposure to Indian athletes, with several world-class tournaments hosted at home like India Open Boxing Tournament and Indian Open Badminton Tournament. Experts say the rise of role models like Saina Nehwal, PV Sindhu, Neeraj Chopra, Geeta Phogat have also inspired thousands of young Indians to take up various sports other than cricket. Despite massive strides, India's rankings at elite events reflect that we have a long way to go. China had bagged 26 gold medals in Rio Olympics. If both the government and the private sector can build on the foundations laid in the past few years, the country will see many more achievers in world sporting events.
क्या हाल?
मत पूछ यार,
फिर से स्टॉक्स में फंस गया। तो स्टॉक्स के साथ बॉन्ड्स, इंश्योरेंस, गोल्ड में बैलेंस कर।
इसमें बहुत तामझाम है।
तुझे 5 पैसा नहीं पता?
अब तो सबको पता है। 5 पैसा है ऑल इन वन अकाउंट। डाउनलोड 5 पैसा नाउ।
अब तो सबको पता है। Investing made easy and rewarding with 5 paisa. Investments in securities market are subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing.
It is not just the sporting arena. The mood in countries the large street is upbeat too. The equity markets rallied on the second day running on Thursday after the US Federal Reserve suggested a slowdown in the rate hike cycle. And now, after pulling out over $30 billion from the equities since October 2021, foreign investors may be preparing to come back to Indian shores. Our next report tells what all is luring them back.
The worst phase for foreign flows into domestic equities may soon be over. Analysts believe the quantum of rate hikes by global central banks is likely to moderate going ahead, especially after the US Fed increased rates by 75 basis points on Wednesday. Commenting on the move, Philip Marray of Robobank International said, US Fed Chair Powell wants to slow down at some point. The FOMC may be thinking of 50 bps hike in September, followed by 25 bps in the remaining two meetings. The slower pace of hikes, in turn, is likely to see flows come back to emerging markets, including India. Abhijit Bhave of Wisdom Wealth, for instance, says, with global inflation progressively declining and the central bank's aggression over interest rate hikes abating, we anticipate that FII inflows would gather steam over the next 2 quarters. However, analysts caution against intermittent phases of withdrawals given macroeconomic developments across major world economies.
From the time that the market peaked in October 2021, in the 43 weeks that have elapsed, FIIs have been sellers for 80% of the time. From the time the fiscal year 23 has begun, it has been mostly relentless selling. June was a ferocious month. July, there was a moderation, and we saw in the last week, ended July 22nd, that there was actual buying. We don't believe it is driven either by corporate results or by the valuation of the Indian markets. We believe it is driven by events in the US. Now, over there, the narrative is changing from inflation towards recession, and which is leading to expectation that the aggressive rate hike of the US Federal Reserve would moderate, and the aggressive taking away of the liquidity also would moderate. If both these events were to come to pass, then there would be a relief rally in the US,
and that would also influence the buying and selling decisions of the FIIs in the Indian market. We're already seeing signs that the selling has become much less severe, and in the coming few weeks, if this trend continues, then we can safely say that the worst is behind us. The corporate results have been as per expectation, sometimes better than expectation for the first quarter. For the full year, again, there is a strong expectation. So there is no real reason for FIIs to be selling so aggressively. We don't believe the Indian market is overvalued. We would be keenly watching the events in the US with regard to the interest rate hiking and the liquidity situation over there.
Since October 2021, FIIs have pulled out over $30 billion from the Indian equity markets. However, the pace of FII outflow has slowed in July as compared to the previous months. The Indian markets, meanwhile, saw a sharp drop, with the S&P BSE Sensex and the Nifty 50 slipping around 7% each from their respective high levels seen in October 2021. According to Morgan Stanley, the biggest foreign portfolio investor selling happened in the technology sector, where they have gone underweight during the recently concluded quarter. On Friday, the markets will look to consolidate after a busy week. Stock-specific action will continue amid June quarter earnings season.
अब क्या किया?
शेयर्स में ट्रेडिंग।
तुम्हें 5 पैसा नहीं पता?
ओए, अब तो सबको पता है। 5 पैसा पर मिलते हैं रिसर्च टूल्स, पोर्टफोलियो एनालिटिक्स और इन्वेस्टमेंट आइडियाज भी। डाउनलोड 5 पैसा नाउ।
अब तो सबको पता है Investing made easy and rewarding with 5 paisa. Investments in securities market are subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing.
Trading skills usually evolve with time. It is a combination of various factors, and there is no perfect method or a shortcut to success. Traders take help of technical analysis to arrive at any conclusion. And there are 3 indicators that every rookie trader should know. They are price indicators, volume, and basic momentum oscillators. Let's delve deeper into each of them. Price is the most significant indicator of any trend. It can determine the course without any assistance from volume or other technical indicators. Price can be analyzed using several instruments. Moving averages help in understanding the price trend. Bollinger Band defines the standard anticipated price deviation. Fibonacci retracements helps in recognizing support and resistance levels. Candlestick patterns can help you preempt a bullish and bearish bias. Volume plays a key role in visualizing the interest of market participants. One can determine significance of a swing trade on the basis of the volume. A robust surge in volume on a breakout clearly implies the possibility of a strong upside. Further, follow-up buying implies higher conviction, thus increasing the possibility of achieving target and preventing losses. And the last one is momentum oscillators. A rising stock may not necessarily always mean a firm upside. Hence, to gauge the outlook more precisely, one needs to assess these select momentum oscillators. The RSI helps in understanding the strength with overbought and oversold conditions as the extreme. Similarly, the MACD helps in identifying the direction, momentum, and likely duration of the trend. The simplest way to interpret a stock is to plot all these 3 indicators with standard parameters. The combination of these should provide a concise outlook on the stock. One may not be able to take a firm call, but should be able to identify the current movement.
I'm backed by the nation's trusted bank, SBI, the banker to every Indian.
After the US Fed, all eyes are now on the RBI, whose rate hike may determine the course of the rupee and the markets too. That's all for today. We'll be back with more news and analysis. Thank you for watching.
If you like this video, share it and subscribe to Business Standard. For more news, views and insights, log on to www.business-standard.com. Do also follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Telegram and LinkedIn.